Throughout history, certain religious cults have left a trail of destruction and fear. These groups, often led by charismatic and manipulative figures, have lured in countless followers with promises of paradise or enlightenment. But beneath the surface of their alluring doctrines often lies a sinister reality. From isolated compounds to bustling cities, these cults operate in the shadows, their grip on their members tightening like a python constricting its prey. The consequences of their actions can be devastating, leaving behind shattered lives and a legacy of pain. Today, we delve into the dark heart of some of the most dangerous religious cults in history. We will journey to the furthest reaches of human belief, exploring the motivations of their leaders and the devastating impact their actions have had on their followers and the world. Be warned, what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. Our journey begins in the heart of Indiana, where a young and charismatic preacher named Jim Jones began his ministry. Jones, a man of contradictions, preached a message of racial equality and social justice, attracting a diverse following of disillusioned souls seeking a better world. He offered them a vision of a utopian society, a sanctuary from the evils of the outside world. This promised land, he proclaimed, would be free from racism, poverty, and injustice. His followers, yearning for a brighter future, flocked to his banner, their hopes and dreams intertwined with his own twisted ambitions. Little did they know, they were being drawn into a web of manipulation and control from which escape would be a matter of life and death. Jones, a master manipulator, gradually tightened his grip on his followers, isolating them from the outside world and demanding absolute loyalty. Our journey takes us now to the bustling metropolis of Tokyo, Japan, where a different kind of darkness was brewing. In the shadows of this modern city, a charismatic yet enigmatic figure named Shoko Asahara was gathering followers. Asahara, a man of small stature but immense ambition, claimed to possess supernatural powers and a profound understanding of ancient esoteric teachings. He preached a bizarre mixture of Buddhism, Hinduism, and apocalyptic Christianity, promising his followers spiritual enlightenment and salvation from a world on the brink of destruction. His followers, many of whom were young and well-educated individuals disillusioned with modern life, were drawn to his message of hope and transcendence. They saw in Asahara a spiritual guide, a beacon of light in a world they perceived as increasingly chaotic and materialistic. Asahara's teachings, however, took a sinister turn, becoming increasingly apocalyptic and paranoid. He claimed that the world was on the verge of a cataclysmic war, orchestrated by evil forces determined to destroy humanity. He preached that only his followers, the chosen few, would survive this impending apocalypse. To prepare for this inevitable conflict, Asahara established a secret paramilitary wing within Aum Shinrikyo, training his followers in the use of weapons and explosives. He instilled in them a dangerous mix of fanaticism and blind obedience, convincing them that their actions, however extreme, were justified in the name of their twisted ideology. On March 20, 1995, the world watched in horror as Aum Shinrikyo unleashed its deadliest attack. Members of the cult released deadly sarin gas in the Tokyo subway system, killing 13 people and injuring thousands more. The attack sent shockwaves through Japan and the world, exposing the terrifying reality of Aum Shinrikyo's deadly ambitions. From the sprawling cities to the quiet suburbs, the tendrils of Heaven's Gate reached out, drawing in those seeking something more. They promised not just spiritual enlightenment, but a literal ascension to a higher plane of existence. Their leader, Marshall Applewhite, once a charismatic music professor, preached a potent blend of Christian eschatology and UFO mythology. He was joined by Bonnie Nettles, a nurse who believed herself to be a reincarnation of Jesus Christ. Together, they wove a narrative of impending doom and celestial rescue. Their message resonated with a disparate group of individuals, artists, tech workers, even those with seemingly stable lives. Drawn by the promise of transcendence, they severed ties with their families, abandoned their careers, and surrendered their possessions. The group lived a nomadic existence, drifting from campgrounds to rented houses, always shrouded in secrecy. Communication with the outside world was strictly controlled, reinforcing their isolation and dependence on Applewhite's teachings. Life within Heaven's Gate was one of rigid discipline and bizarre rituals. Members adopted matching haircuts, wore identical uniforms, and even underwent castration, all in preparation for their extraterrestrial voyage. Their belief system, a peculiar mix of New Age spirituality and science fiction, became their reality. Their faith in Applewhite, known as Doe, was absolute. He controlled every aspect of their lives, from their diet to their thoughts. He convinced them that their physical bodies were mere vessels, temporary shells to be discarded on their journey to the evolutionary level above human. In 1997, as the Hale-Bopp comet blazed across the sky, Applewhite declared it a sign. The time for their ascension had arrived. He instructed his followers to ingest a lethal cocktail of phenobarbital mixed with applesauce, a final act of devotion that would release their souls to the awaiting spaceship. 39 members, including Applewhite himself, were found dead in the group's rented mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. They lay in their bunk beds, faces covered in purple shrouds, victims of a chilling and meticulously planned mass suicide. In the heart of Texas, a community calling themselves the Branch Davidians sought solace and salvation. Led by the enigmatic Vernon Howell, later known as David Koresh, they believed themselves to be God's chosen people, living in the end times. Koresh, a charismatic figure with a troubled past, exerted a powerful hold over his followers. He claimed to be a prophet, divinely ordained to interpret the 7 seals of the Book of Revelation. His teachings, a blend of biblical literalism and apocalyptic pronouncements, instilled both fear and fervent devotion. He demanded absolute obedience and enforced his authority with a heavy hand. Women were considered his spiritual wives, and children were subjected to harsh discipline and indoctrination. Life within the Mount Carmel Center, their sprawling compound near Waco, became increasingly isolated and insular. The outside world, with its temptations and perceived wickedness, was to be shunned. Contact with family and friends was discouraged, and education for the children was limited to Koresh's teachings. Cut off from outside influences, the Branch Davidians existed in a world of their own making, a world increasingly defined by fear and paranoia. Whispers of child abuse and weapons stockpiling reached the authorities, leading to a raid by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms in 1993. The raid went tragically wrong, escalating into a 51-day siege that would grip the nation. The Branch Davidians, heavily armed and convinced they were under attack by government forces, barricaded themselves within their compound. Negotiations proved futile, with Koresh alternating between cooperation and defiance. The world watched in horror as the standoff dragged on, with no end in sight. On April 19, 1993, the FBI launched a tear gas assault, hoping to force the Branch Davidians out. Instead, a fire erupted, engulfing the compound in flames. 76 people, including 25 children, perished in the inferno. The Waco siege became a symbol of religious extremism, government overreach, and the tragic consequences of unchecked power. The scars of that fateful day continue to haunt the survivors and serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the dangers of unchecked fanaticism. In the heart of the 1960s, as the summer of love gave way to a darker undercurrent, a sinister figure emerged from the fringes of society. Charles Manson, a charismatic ex-convict with a messianic complex, gathered around him a group of lost and vulnerable souls, mostly young women from troubled backgrounds. Manson, with his piercing gaze and rambling pronouncements, offered them a sense of belonging and purpose. He preached a twisted gospel of love and violence, drawing inspiration from the occult, the Beatles' music, and his own warped interpretation of the Bible. He called his growing band of followers the Family. They lived a nomadic existence, drifting from one abandoned ranch to another, fueled by drugs and Manson's increasingly bizarre pronouncements. He instilled in them a dangerous mix of love, loyalty, and blind obedience, transforming them into instruments of his will. Manson, obsessed with racial hatred and apocalyptic fantasies, believed a race war was imminent. He called it Helter Skelter after the Beatles' song, and saw himself as the orchestrator of this coming conflict. To hasten its arrival, he devised a plan as chilling as it was senseless. On August 9, 1969, Manson sent 4 of his most devoted followers to a house in Benedict Canyon, Los Angeles. Their target, the pregnant actress Sharon Tate and her guests. The following night, the Manson family struck again, this time brutally murdering Lino and Rosemary LaBianca in their Los Feliz home. The killings, marked by their savagery and seemingly random nature, sent shockwaves through the city and beyond. Los Angeles was gripped by terror as rumors of a cult responsible for the murders spread like wildfire. It wasn't until December of that year that the Manson family was finally apprehended. Their trial, a media spectacle that captivated the nation, exposed the full extent of Manson's depravity and the chilling hold he had over his followers. Though Manson himself did not participate in the murders, he was convicted on 7 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. His sentence was later commuted to life in prison, where he remained until his death in 2017. The Manson family and their crimes became a chilling reminder of the dark side of the human psyche and the dangers of unchecked charisma. From the picturesque valleys of Switzerland, a seemingly innocuous group emerged, calling themselves the Order of the Solar Temple. Founded in 1984 by Luc Jouret, the order initially focused on spiritual enlightenment and environmentalism. However, their teachings harbored a darker side, masked beneath esoteric symbolism and apocalyptic prophecies. Jouret preached about the imminent end of the world and a select few destined to be reborn on a distant planet. This belief in an impending apocalypse, coupled with Jouret's authoritarian control, led to tragic events. In 1994, 53 members were found dead in Switzerland and Canada, victims of apparent suicides and murders. The gruesome discoveries exposed the sinister underbelly of the seemingly peaceful group. The Order of the Solar Temple serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of blind faith and the importance of critical thinking. Emerging from the counterculture movement of the 1960s, the Children of God, later known as the Family International, presented itself as a haven for lost souls seeking spiritual enlightenment. Led by David Berg, the group preached a distorted version of Christianity, laced with apocalyptic pronouncements and a dangerous emphasis on absolute obedience. Berg, who adopted the moniker Moses David, established a system of control that permeated every aspect of his followers' lives. He dictated their every move, isolating them from the outside world and fostering a climate of fear and dependence. One of the most disturbing aspects was Berg's doctrine of flirty fishing, encouraging female members to use sex to recruit new members. This exploitative practice led to widespread allegations of sexual abuse and child sexual abuse within the group. The Children of God's tactics left a trail of broken lives and shattered families. The group's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power within religious groups. Despite tight control, some members managed to escape, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. These survivors have bravely shared their experiences, shedding light on the horrors they endured. One such survivor, River Phoenix, spoke out about the abuse he suffered within the Children of God. His story, along with countless others, helped expose the group's predatory practices. The courage of these individuals has been instrumental in holding the Children of God accountable. Their testimonies have helped law enforcement agencies build cases against the group, leading to arrests and convictions. The stories of those who escaped serve as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Their bravery has helped shine a light on the dark underbelly of this dangerous cult, offering hope and support to other survivors. In the dusty plains of Oregon, a charismatic guru named Bhagwan Shrey Rajneesh, later known as Osho, established a utopian community called Rajneeshpuram in the early 1980s. Attracting followers from around the world, the commune promised spiritual enlightenment, free love, and a radical departure from societal norms. Rajneesh, with his flowing robes, captivating lectures, and Rolls-Royce collection, became a symbol of the era's spiritual experimentation and countercultural movements. He preached a philosophy that embraced meditation, self-awareness, and a rejection of traditional morality. However, beneath the veneer of spiritual seeking and free-spirited living, Rajneeshpuram harbored a darker side. The community, tightly controlled by Rajneesh and his inner circle, soon became embroiled in controversy. Allegations of bioterrorism, immigration fraud, and a power struggle within the commune's leadership tarnished its utopian image. The dream of a spiritual utopia quickly unraveled as tensions with local communities escalated, culminating in a series of criminal acts orchestrated by Rajneesh's followers. The events shook the nation, exposing the dangers of unchecked power within seemingly utopian communities and the fine line between spiritual seeking and dangerous fanaticism. The Rajneeshpuram experiment, though short-lived, left an indelible mark on the American cultural landscape. The commune's dramatic rise and fall served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of charismatic leadership, the allure of utopian ideals, and the potential for abuse within spiritual communities. Despite the controversies and criminal activities that plagued Rajneeshpuram, Osho's teachings continue to resonate with some. His emphasis on meditation and self-discovery has influenced various New Age and self-help movements, with meditation centers and retreats around the world drawing inspiration from his teachings. Rajneesh's legacy remains complex and contested. While some view him as a spiritual innovator who challenged societal norms, others see him as a manipulative cult leader who exploited his followers. His teachings, often stripped of their original context, continue to be disseminated through books, recordings, and workshops. The story of Rajneeshpuram serves as a reminder that the search for spiritual enlightenment can be fraught with danger, and that even the most charismatic leaders can harbor dark secrets. It highlights the importance of critical thinking, questioning authority, and recognizing the potential for abuse within any group or organization, no matter how appealing its message. From the sun-baked plains of Africa, we journey to Uganda, where a different kind of predator stalks its prey. This predator hunts with twisted scripture and promises of divine salvation. This is the story of the movement for the restoration of the Ten Commandments of God. Founded in the late 1980s by Credonia Morinde, the cult preached an apocalyptic message. They claimed the world would end at the turn of the millennium. Their dogma mixed Catholic and traditional beliefs, emphasizing strict adherence to a distorted version of the Ten Commandments. Obedience was paramount, questioning a grave sin. Followers surrendered their possessions and lives to the cult. In March 2000, the world watched in horror as news emerged from Uganda of a horrific massacre. Over 700 followers, including women and children, were found dead in a church set ablaze. The Kanungu massacre was a meticulously planned act of mass suicide by the cult's leaders. It serves as a stark reminder of the insidious power of cults and the devastating consequences of blind faith. A story etched in blood and ashes, a chilling testament to human cruelty and despair. From the scorching plains of Africa, we travel now to the frigid north, to the icy grip of rural Canada. Here, amidst the vast wilderness, a different kind of darkness took root, a story of manipulation, torture, and unimaginable cruelty. This is the chilling tale of Roch Thériault and his band of followers, known as the Ant Hill Kids. Thériault, a charismatic but deeply disturbed individual, established his commune in the 1970s, attracting followers disillusioned with mainstream society. He promised them utopia, a life free from the constraints of the outside world, but this promise of paradise soon morphed into a living nightmare. Thériault, fueled by paranoia and delusions of grandeur, established himself as a godlike figure, demanding absolute obedience from his followers. He controlled every aspect of their lives, from their diet to their relationships, instilling fear and dependency through a regime of brutal punishments and psychological manipulation. Life within the Ant Hill Kids commune became a twisted parody of normal existence. Thériault subjected his followers to horrific abuse, both physical and psychological. Beatings were commonplace, often administered with unimaginable cruelty. He performed crude surgeries on his followers, convinced of his own medical prowess. The children born into the commune fared no better. Subjected to neglect, abuse, and indoctrination, they grew up in a world warped by Thériault's twisted worldview. Escape, for both adults and children, seemed impossible, their lives entangled in a web of fear and control spun by their charismatic but deeply disturbed leader. The reign of terror finally came to an end in the late 1980s when one of Thériault's wives escaped and alerted the authorities. The subsequent trial exposed the horrific crimes that had transpired within the commune, sending shockwaves throughout Canada and beyond. Thériault was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison, where he would later die at the hands of a fellow inmate. But the scars left by his reign of terror continue to haunt the survivors, a chilling reminder of the fragility of human nature and the devastating consequences of unchecked power. From the Jonestown massacre to the fiery end of the Branch Davidians, from the apocalyptic pronouncements of Heaven's Gate to the unimaginable cruelty inflicted upon the Ant Hill Kids, we have journeyed through some of the darkest chapters in human history. These cults, diverse in their beliefs and methods, share a common thread: the dangerous allure of blind faith and the devastating consequences of unchecked power. These stories serve as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of the human psyche, our innate need to belong, to believe, to find meaning in a world often chaotic and unpredictable. But they also highlight the importance of critical thinking, of questioning, of resisting the seductive whispers of those who claim to hold all the answers. The world is a complex and often dangerous place, and the siren song of cults, with their promises of certainty and salvation, can be alluring. But we must remain vigilant, informed, and ever so critical of those who would seek to control our minds and dictate our destinies. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Remember, knowledge is our greatest defense against the shadows. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and protect yourself and others from the dangers that lurk in the shadows of belief. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.